Welcome to this week's episode of Eye of the Swarm, your deep dive into anything and everything related to Yellowjacket athletics. He is the big sound, Matt Johnson. I am Jon Garver, season number 6, episode number 12, all-time episode number 100.
Ah, there it is. I was going to do the research this time.
I looked it up last night, and I'm like, okay, I knew it was close, and here it is. So
we've reached.
We hit the century mark.
At the century mark. Well, congratulations to us.
I guess.
I don't know.
Congratulations to all of you for putting up with us.
Yes, for those
times.
of you who have watched us 100 times do this, I feel your pain. But thank you for enduring it with us. Your commitment to us is appreciated.
It is. Noted. We wouldn't still be doing it if we didn't actually have people tuning in. So.
Exactly. So here we are into the century mark,
episode 100 coming when there's a
lot going on.
Oh boy, is there ever! So.
Yeah, it's hard to go through all of it. So
but let's try.
Let's try. Where would you like to begin?
You steer the ship, man.
Well, I mean, you and I started out the day by talking about the game I had last night.
Yes.
The playoff basketball game
As
I had.
we record this on Thursday,
women's basketball. Following the women's basketball
UMAC
teams,
semifinal last night.
Yeah, against Martin Luther.
Great ball game.
Yeah, it was really well played by both teams. It was what you want playoff basketball to be, and this is what we talked about before it went on air. Both teams played well. Mm-hmm. Jackets played really well. Martin Luther came out a little slow, but I think they were trying to kind of get their feet under them. I mean, it's the first time they had been in since 16-17. To the UMAC tournament, so it's been a while since Martin Luther has been to this round of the UMAC tournament, and like I said, it took them a little time to get their feet on them. Yellowjackets led through most of the game, but give Martin Luther credit, they did not go away.
Their coach has done a nice job with that program.
Yeah, Dan Galrish has done a really good job. He's been building it for a few years now. They took a notable step forward last year, and narrowly missed making the tournament, and then this year he brought in some really nice, good young players. And they took a step up, and for a while there.
For half the year they led the conference.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that they were, about halfway through the year, I thought they were going to be right there, knocking on the door for a conference title, and had a couple of weeks of tough results, especially on the road. They're really good in their home building, but they had a couple of tough road games, and where they dropped games, and probably would have wanted to have those back, but they gave a very, very good accounting of themselves last night, and I congratulate him and his program because it's definitely the best Martin Luther women's team I've seen, by a long shot.
Yep.
And they've still got a few upperclassmen on that team, but they've also got some good young players in the system on that squad. So, but it was a really good win for the Yellowjackets.
It was.
Played very well. Mackenzie Lesha had another really big game. That's 2 in a row now.
Especially in the early first quarter, she was hitting everything.
Yeah, and I've been told by Simeon Gibson, the women's assistant coach, that she was primed for a big game because she had been working on her shot the last couple of days in the gym, and she's a two-sporter, so she's busy, and she gets pretty beat up physically during the year. She'd be the first to tell you that, but I mean, she had it going yesterday, and she's one of those players that when she gets her shot going, she's tough because she's long, she's athletic, she's a really good defender. We've already talked about that. But she's done she had a big game, 24 points yesterday. Elise Bessenden did what she always does, which is score, close to 20.
Remarkably consistent.
Yeah, Elise is just about as consistent as it gets. I mean, of all the players that we've had at UWS, I mean, she's about as steady as it gets.
Yep.
Elise is she's just one of those ball players. And she had 6 assists last night, 1 turnover in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And scored 19. That's Elise Bessenden in a nutshell.
Yep.
And Charlotte Fursell had her 5th straight double-double, so it's good to see that she's been stepping up. Elsa Olsen had a nice game as well. So good balance, good ball game, really good ball game. It was anybody's game all the way through.
I'm not going to lie, I got sick to my stomach when they came out of that timeout and that ball went through Katie Dobson's hands and went out of bounds, and I just went, oh. No.
Yeah, I did too. Because
they're going to play for the one.
Yeah.
And oh no.
Yeah.
And then they
turned it over. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
All right, we're back in business here now.
Yeah, that was...
And then we almost scored with 1.6 seconds.
Yeah, at least with the runner.
Yeah, that almost went in.
Yeah, that one spun out just as regulation ended, and then we went to overtime. The Jackets really did take control in overtime.
They did.
Scored 8 of the first 10. And then from there, they never really were threatened again.
Yeah.
But it was a well-played game.
Very good game.
Everybody...
Very, very good game to watch.
Everybody played. That's what playoff basketball should be.
Yep.
Like you said, I also had that moment where it's like, oh boy, and I felt bad for Katie. She came over the bench. She was visibly upset.
Yeah.
At the time, but I'll give her credit because she settled in after that.
Yep.
Katie's one of the better defenders on the team. She's one of the better rebounders on the squad, and she didn't let it really affect her the rest of the game, so that was good. Because that's going to play that can take you out of it.
Yep. That's a season ender at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
So
and I was thinking in my head, boy, I really hope that this isn't how it goes out and how she ends her Yellowjacket career if they score on this next one. But thankfully it worked out. But yeah, I had the same feeling you did. And I don't know, I can't remember what I said in the air, but I said, boy, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Something to that effect.
Something to that effect, yeah.
Yeah, so went right through her hands, and she did the classic thinking about what she was going to do before she actually secured the ball.
Yep.
And, and unfortunately that happens sometimes, but the Jackets overcame it, so we're okay with it. Now off to Northwestern, who put together quite a beating of Bethany Lutheran,
I was surprised
I think
at that
surprised
result.
everybody.
Yep.
Way Bethany was playing, they were playing really good basketball going into the tournament. We're up at the half. Mm-hmm. And then apparently they
fell apart in the second half.
Yeah, in the third and fourth quarters, it just got away from them. Mm-hmm. And that happens sometimes. I mean, playoff basketball, we talk about with soccer, how there's different levels of intensity. Playoff basketball is the same way.
Yep.
It's just the intensity goes up, and if you have not been there before, it can be tough to to stick with it. That was one of the things I was curious about Martin Luther with yesterday, was to see how they were going to respond to playoff atmosphere basketball now. I thought UWS was well prepared because they basically played a playoff game against Morris in that regular season finale. I mean, that was essentially what that was.
Yeah.
So the Yellowjackets looked like they were ready to go. They were focused and dialed in basically from the start, and played, I think, 3 pretty good quarters of basketball. Plus the overtime they played well in too. Second quarter wasn't as good, but the first quarter was really good. So
sets the table for a good matchup in the
it really does.
Saturday.
And there's some stuff there. I mean, the Jackets blew a 15-point lead last time they played in the fourth quarter. Northwestern set up, changed up their defense going into the fourth quarter, and the Jackets just didn't handle it.
Yep.
And we'll see, what happens, on Saturday. See if
they're a good team. They're very well coached.
They are. Aaron Call's been there for 15 years, and he's done a really good job. Games with them are always spirited, really tight. Like playing Northwestern. It's a good matchup for us. We're a good matchup for them. So, it's going to be a fun one on Saturday.
All right.
And men's basketball, of course, done for the year. Unfortunately, they got knocked out of the potential UMAC tournament bid by Minnesota Morris last week. They finished 12-13, 7 seniors graduating.
They were never really able to get on track this year.
No, I felt like they were fighting it a lot of the time this year.
The whole year.
And it's disappointing. They lose 7 seniors off this team, which, is going to be a reboot next year. But, I just, Morris just didn't miss any shots, it didn't feel like, in the game. And, they were shooting 60 to 65% for a lot of that one, and it's just, when a team does that to you, it's going to be really tough.
You have to be almost perfect.
Yeah, exactly, and it just didn't work out. So 7 seniors graduate, and we'll see what they look like next year. Women's hockey on a 3-game winning streak now. Now the big ones come against River Falls.
They got the number 1 team in the country now.
Yeah, down at Hunt Arena.
They dismantled Northland over the last 3 games, and
you saw the last one.
Yeah.
Tough situation for Northland, obviously.
Yeah, really difficult with, obviously the announcement of the closure of the school at the end of the academic year, and you feel for the people there, the athletes, you feel for the staffs, and difficult situation for them to.
Yep.
But I give them a ton of credit for still lacing them up and, putting the effort in that they did. Unfortunately, they had just no depth.
Yeah.
And. Yeah, it was a hard game, and they Superior did what they had to do. They came out, they put them away early, and all right, let's turn our attention to
River Falls,
the top team in the country, defending national champions.
Yep. So the women now 12-12-2, and on their way to taking on River Falls. Speaking of River Falls, they'll be in town on the men's side too. Yellowjacket men, after getting a bye last week, as virtue of their WIAC Conference regular season title, will now be at home against River Falls.
Yep.
On Friday and Saturday. Guys probably needed that week just to kind of re-energize the batteries.
Yeah, they definitely did, and they were a little beat up in there. There's some injuries, and you got guys that have been nursing some nagging stuff since December.
Yeah.
And having a week off right now is good. It squashes some of the momentum he maybe built up, but by and large, they needed this break because they could take 2-3 full days off,
right? Yeah,
and then have a couple of light practices in there before they get back into it. So it was a good time for them to to get a break in.
Yep.
And they're chomping at the bit.
Oh, I bet they are.
They're chomping at the bit.
Should be a fun series.
I know that they got together as a group and watched both of those Stout River Falls games last weekend.
Okay.
And they're fired up. They're ready to go.
Yeah, it sounds. It should be, like I said, a fun weekend.
Should be a great weekend.
Yeah, so that's also going to be this weekend. Men's and women's tennis. Men were off. Women played Eau Claire. Lost down there, and now they're both off until their spring trip to Alabama, which they'll be playing down on March 10th. So they've got a little bit of a break here.
Yep.
But they played a lot of matches in a short space of time, so they
did.
probably also need a break.
Yeah. Yeah, this is probably a good time for them, too.
Yeah, so they're going to get a break. And baseball and softball actually are underway already.
Baseball playing outdoors in February.
Yeah, in St. Peter, Minnesota, against Gustavus got swept.
50 degrees down there.
Yeah, 13-2 and 7-6. I didn't get a chance to watch either game. I wish I kind of would have, but very veteran squad down there at Gustavus. They got a lot of juniors and seniors. Yeah, they're going to be a tough squad. And softball split. They had a win over McAllister.
Nice win over McAllister.
Yeah, McAllister's a pretty solid squad.
They're a good team.
They're a good team.
That's a good win there.
And then falling to Carleton 9-6 in the game would, unfortunately, things didn't go quite as well in the circle as they had hoped.
Right.
But overall, softball was picked to finish first in the coaches poll, which was the last released, I think, a couple of weeks back. And,
sorry, Coach Fracker.
Yeah, sorry. Well, yeah, sorry, I had to just bring it up. And then baseball was picked second. So both teams are expected to challenge for conference crowns again this year. And so that's what's coming up. Of course, the big headliner event, I suppose, of the weekend on campus is the UMAC Indoor Track and Field Championships. It's an annual thing now that we host because we're the lone school that seems to have the capability or the facilities to do so. So Friday and Saturday, 2-a-day event. Action on Saturday or on Friday gets underway at 1 p.m.
1:30.
1:30.
1:30 and then 10:30
on Saturday. And there's going to be a lot happening. So a lot of events, a lot of things
get
happening.
Get here early so you get parking.
I'm planning on Saturday. I'm planning to get here because I normally do. I get up here early on Saturday. But you know what though? It's a really fun event for people who have not had a chance to see it. I've attended the last couple of years, and it's been a lot of fun to watch it. It's a nice lead-in also to the championship basketball game, which will be at 4:30. Yellowjacket's hosting Northwestern. And then, of course, hockey on campus. So this is one of those weekends where typically it's pretty big on campus, and we've been doing it now for a few years where there's been a lot of cool events on this particular February weekend.
And in between all of that, there is the Superior Mite 1 Grays taking on Duluth Heights. Over at the Bay Area Civic Center.
Scouting report.
I don't know how Gray's going to, Gray had a tough stretch here. They had a little bit tough stretch. They got beat up a little bit a couple weeks ago over at Glen Avon and had a couple tough games at Hermantown.
Okay.
So
they need to bounce back.
We'll see if they can bounce back here. They got one on Saturday and 3 on Sunday.
Okay, so they need a bounce back weekend.
Yeah, they're going to have a big weekend here over at the Bay Area Civic Center in Ashland.
Okay. Well, best of luck to the Grays.
Spirit Columbia will be there too. Two teams in that event, but we're pulling for Gray.
Okay. Well, there you have it. So youth hockey is also going on.
Yes.
It's a fun time. And by the way, congratulations to Chibbing.
Yes. Yes, Chibbing with the section championship.
And our entire production crew, who, by the way, is from the Hibbing-Chisholm area. Chibbing, as Mr. Garver likes to call them.
Even though there's not a single Chisholm kid on the team, right? Not a one?
No.
There is one? Okay, good.
Okay, there's a single
therefore,
one.
Chibbing still
Chibbing is still
lives.
a thing.
It lives. I'd give it up if there wasn't one there.
Yeah, but so congratulations to you guys on your Iron Range compatriots and the younger kids qualifying for state.
Awesome to see.
First time it's not Hermantown out of
in a long time.
In a long time.
So it's good for the game up here.
Yeah, I think it is too.
Without a doubt.
And so, it's a heck of a time. This is the funnest. This is the most fun I have. Yeah,
best time of the year.
Yeah, this is the time I really enjoy everything. So that's what happened last week, and boy, a lot happening this weekend.
A lot happening this weekend, too. So with that, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we will talk to Glen Drexler, the head coach of the Yellowjacket track and field team, as well as Summer Hesseldahl, a sophomore on the team. That big competition for them. As Matt mentioned, the conference championships coming up this weekend. We'll have them right after this break. This is Eye of the Swarm.
Find your passion. Find your people. Find your purpose. Find your superior.
We're back on the roundtable segment of this week's Eye of the Swarm, and we are heading to the field house, I guess is probably the best way to put it, as by the time this airs, the 2025 UMAC Indoor Track and Field Championships will be in the rearview mirror. But as we record, we are a day before, and we're happy to be joined by head coach Glen Drexler, Summer Hesseldahl from the women's indoor track and field team. And we were kind of joking briefly here a few seconds ago, but you got something happening starting tomorrow, huh?
Yes, we do. Thanks for having us, by the way. It's we're gonna have a full house here. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be fun.
It's an event that we've become the de facto owner of because every year it is here. Would you rather be able to go somewhere and do it, or are you happy to be here?
I've always said this. I say I would rather be on the road for a championship, only because. And I'm not that I'm a control freak, but I have more control over what's happening, what they're eating, what they're doing after the meet. If we're at home, and again, it's wonderful that our families come and support us and everything, but they might, I gotta go spend some time with my family because I don't get to see them very often, and they worry a little bit about that, which is good. I don't want to make it sound like it's bad.
Right.
But when we're trying to focus in on winning a championship, and there's very little room for error. A little extra time staying up late, or oh my gosh, I got to shovel the sidewalk, or oh I got to do this, or I got to go make breakfast, or all these things are not an issue when we're on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's just you get on the bus, we go, we're set, we're focused, no distractions. We go to the hotel room, we come back, we compete another day, and we're going.
Yeah. So
there are pieces to it that I do like about being on the road. Obviously, the other side of it though is being at home. Well, this is our house.
Yep.
And it's. The runway's the same. It's our runway. It's our, pits, everything that's familiar to us. The sight lines are the same, and that's important at times for especially jumpers and throwers. So there's good things to it too, but I do like that we talk about it. We talked about it already earlier this week, last week a little bit. Get on the bus, okay? When it's time to go, we're getting on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bus, coach? Yeah, there's a bus, and you better be on it because it's time to go. Because we got to get in the right state of mind.
Yep.
Every other team is getting on a bus, and they're changing who they are from just primary student to I'm an athlete now,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're sitting in class right up till gun goes off. We're not really there yet.
Right.
Get on the bus.
Get on the bus.
So.
There's a lot of external distractions too. I know in particular for you talk about athletes with families and things, but for you, coach, the sound system isn't working. The timer is caught behind the train. He's running late. We're out of buns. Things like that. All these external things that you have to deal with too.
We're out of buns. I like that one. That's my favorite one so far. We're out of carbs. Do we have any more carbs?
There's an inside
us?
joke there, but
okay.
Closed circuit Paul Nicious if you're watching. But it's the external distractions too, and that's got to be incredibly frustrating.
Yeah.
Because you can't just concentrate on your athletes.
Yeah. Our announcer Steve Pearson, who's one of our alum, is going to be doing the announcing this weekend, and we were talking about some things that I want him to keep an eye on because that is not. At this point, I'm handing off the keys to Paul Nicious, who will be our meet director, and just run the meet. I'm going to try to coach my athletes, try to spend some time with them. And Steve said, what about this? Should I give you a call or text you when it happens? I'm like, I don't want to know anything. Just do it. I don't need to care about it. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, totally sure. I don't want to, not that I don't care about it, but I need to worry about my athletes and not worrying about something that's happened with a timing issue or an announcement issue or whatever it might be. I don't need that in the middle of a meet. I do that for our home meets.
Coach, they told me to find you. There's a car parked in the fire lane. Can you make this announcement?
Exactly. That's exactly what happens. Because in a normal meet, that might be what I do, but in a conference championship, I don't want to have to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll still get those comments.
Let's talk a little bit about the lead up to this because the indoor season starts in December. And it's always one of those that even though I know it's coming, it totally sneaks up on me because you're in cross country, you're in fall sports, you're in crossover, and it's like they're at St. Scholastica on Friday. So it really kind of sneaks up. Starts in December, and where are we at this point?
We're at the end of the season. It flew by. as long as the indoor season is longer than the outdoor season, but as long as the indoor season is, it's snap the fingers, it's over.
Yep.
And man, it flies by. I mean, I want summer to talk about, but it's crazy.
I've got questions for her too.
Exactly.
We're at the end of the season. I think we've done a good job of preparing to get to this point. We've looked at things differently as far as training goes, especially on the sprinter side. Our training is continuing to evolve. We're adding a lot more recovery into it, which is, I think, allowing our athletes to be healthier. So there's a lot of good things that are happening, but it's been a long few months already. So I think that they're ready. The other thing is we kind of set it up so they're itching to compete in the conference, and I think we're there. I think that they're ready for this.
Are you?
Yes, yes, so much so. Yeah, it's like Glenn said, it's longer than outdoor, but it flies by fast. We have that Scholastica meet. All of a sudden, you're on Christmas break. We come back earlier, but then it's meetings, it's practice. Oh, we have our first home meet. Oh, we have 5 meets, and now we're at conference.
Yep.
And it flies by because once it's every weekend, then you're there, and that's where we're at right now.
That first meet is kind of a tease, too, because you get that meet in December, then you're off for a month again. So is that good or bad?
Depends on the way you look at it. It's a nice intro to what you're coming back to get ready to not just like start practicing and then let it all go to waste kind of and come back for January. But that first meet is a good entry level for especially freshmen to get like used to it because you're doing maybe less events than you did at high school or more events than you did. And it's just a nice way to get back into the swing of things and be like, okay, so this is what I'm coming back to after break. Even though you may go home and maybe have an incentive to like, I should run or I should go find somewhere to lift and not just sit on my couch.
I'm going to put that Christmas
break.
cookie back.
Exactly. Yeah. So I definitely love having a meet, even though it's broken up by a lot. But it's just a way to start and be like, this is what I've been working towards and this is what I've been practicing for since we got onto campus in September. So it's just a nice way to start it out.
How did you handle it differently between freshman year and sophomore year?
Sophomore year, I definitely knew what was happening. You come in, you're like, okay, this is what lifting looks like, and this is what I need to do for conditioning to get ready for that first meet and make sure, like, oh, it's like right around the corner, guys. Don't forget about it. It's going to sneak up on us. And freshman year, you don't know what's going on. You're kind of just showing up, and you just follow the group, and they get you hopefully to where you're going.
Right.
But it's definitely knowing more what's going to happen, what I need for myself as an athlete to like make sure I'm ready for that first meet or bringing certain things home so I can do the work I need to. Like I brought hurdles back with me or a hurdle back with me over Christmas break just to do hip mobility and stuff so I didn't get super locked up before we came back for that home meet. So it's just knowing more and preparing better, I guess.
Just experience.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's just another year experience. I mean, we talked about that, Glen we have on the program quite a bit because of the amount of teams that he coaches, but it's one of the things he talks about, the adjustment going from high school going up to college. It's kind of an eye-opening experience for everybody because they don't really know what to expect. And so, kind of getting your feet wet at that first year, kind of trying to figure out the differences between, competing in high school and competing in college. It's a big step up. And so you have to kind of hold their hand. I know at times, Glenn, to kind of get them to kind of convince them that, you're right, you can do this. Mm-hmm. This is going to be a little bit different, but it's a little bit more intense, but you can do this. Whereas sophomore, junior, senior, then you're really starting to focus in now because now you know what to expect and what the expectations are. So that's always an interesting process. I know it's one that, all the coaches up here work on quite a bit, and I know, Glenn, you work on it quite a bit as well. Mm-hmm. It's just making sure that the freshmen understand that we're not trying to put a bunch of heat on you, but just making sure that you understand where we're trying to go. Both for you as a freshman, but then also sophomore, junior, and senior year, hopefully, in the program. And Glenn, I know you have quite a few returners as well, so that helps in that regard because they're kind of there to kind of figuratively hold their hand, I guess, and kind of show them this is how we do things around here.
Yeah. The seniors are always, seniors, upperclassmen in general, are always important to how we roll. I mean, if we don't have their direction at times, it's kind of a listless ship. I think this last couple of years, our incoming freshmen have really bought into what we're doing, and summer's a great example of knowing that, okay, now this is how the lift program works. This is how the sprint program works, and really doing the work that's required. And when that happens, good things happen, and she's obviously showing that. But not only that, then people are starting to watch. Oh, hey, I see what she's doing. That's what I need to do. Okay, cool. Now we've got that kind of
Now you
snowball
got two.
effect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then-
right.
Right.
So it helps when we have the kind of buy-in that we've had with Summer, and some of those, that sophomore group has been really good with this program. So, yeah, upperclassmen, good stuff.
Are you different on conference week? And I asked that because, he's a Bemidji State graduate. And when I played hockey here, Bemidji State week was the week.
The week, yeah.
And Coach Nelson was very different on Bemidji State week than he was any other week during the year.
The intensity went up a little
Even
bit,
in the postseason.
Yeah.
If it was Bemidji, everything was
Right.
These
amped
go
up.
to 11, like in Spinal Tap, and that's what.
That's saying something,
That's
too.
what he was.
For Nelly, that's saying something
Yes.
because he was amped all the time.
I know,
So,
and he
yeah.
took it to 11 on Bemidji week. So, does it go to 11 for you on conference week?
Summer, does it go to 11?
Glen's normally a little bit stressed out trying to herd all the cats that is the track team, but it gets a little extra crazy during conference week for sure.
I agree. No, yeah, it's. I start brewing furiously probably by midweek last week already, and just start going through all the scenarios and trying to figure out where we need to be and what we need to do, and then add on top of that, and that's the part where we're hosting. So not only am I trying to figure out my own team and where we need to be and what we need to do, but I'm also figuring out buns, parking. I mean, keeps coming back, pal. But I'm we're just trying to figure it all out to make sure that it's a good experience. And it comes back to, like, when we're hosting, and we talk about this when we set up. It's somebody's Olympics. It's somebody's World Series. It's somebody's Super Bowl. And I want them to feel like it's a big deal. Because it is. It's a really big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But it might be the biggest meet they'll ever get to.
Yep.
Well, gosh darn it, let's make it that way.
Yeah.
So we do we work really hard to make sure that it feels like a big deal. And sometimes that comes out at practice and they're like, oh boy, Coach, it's so crazy today. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying not to be, but I get that way. Yeah,
Does having done it all of these years, does that help at all in the preparation? I mean,
sure, it helps, but I'm just wired differently. I think I get wound up regardless. I think
Because at this point,
well, I mean, he's like, I'm not saying that it makes it easier. I'm just saying, but does that give you any comfort level of knowing that you basically do it every year?
I mean, I would say this. I think we've done a lot of events over the years, and I think some of the education of hosting a WIAC championship back in the day and being through some national championships, and then I helped host some NSIC championships when the merger happened with NCC. Those are big meets.
Yep.
And being a part of that, there's a feeling there, and I want to recreate that for as many people as I can. Now, having done that work, you start to get an idea of what you kind of need to do, and you can kind of fall back on some of that knowledge. But I still, like I said, get worked up regardless because that's who I am.
That's probably, but that, again, I think that's a nice combination, way of saying it, though. Like, so I've done this before, many times before, and I know what I need to do in terms of, like, logistics on top of, okay, I'm thinking about, I'm going to place my team and what athletes are going to do what and what times, and, But if you're really committed to it, though, you're still nervous about it. You're still worked up about it because everyone, even though if you've done it, 100 times, everyone is still different. Like, every meet is a different meet. It doesn't, like, this year's meet's not going to be the exact same as last year's or the previous year before that or anything else like that. I mean, there are logistic things I'm sure that okay, we got to have this by this date, and we got to make sure that we have this stuff in by this date, but every meet is still different.
Yeah.
And there's
we're
still
always
things,
looking ways to improve it, the experience across the board. I mean, we'll go to places that just do a really good job of putting on an event to make it feel like it's a big deal. Mankato's a really good example. They just put on a show, and it's cool to be there. And so, to kind of do some of the things they do, it's like, we want to try to pull that off too.
Right. Yep.
So there's some of that going on too.
I got a question for Summer because we were talking about this now. You say you like being on the road for championships because there's more control. Do you like being on the road, or would you rather be at
When it comes to indoor conference, because obviously it's only my sophomore year. I'm used to hosting at home. When we went to Morris for outdoor, it's a long bus ride, and I don't love that so much for like myself. I like the idea of getting on the bus and going there and like getting in the mindset I don't have to worry about as much. But the road is long to Morris. Then we have to drive like 20 or 30 minutes to the hotel like that evening and then drive back in the morning. So like working that out, I'd rather be here and get there. But I'm also someone who likes to buy into the idea of getting on the bus and like limiting my distractions. And like I understand I'll see my family Saturday night when we go for dinner and I can worry about it then and stuff like that. So like I like it in that sense hosting at conference here, but I like the idea of getting on the bus. So, like, if we could get on the bus, go around the block, and come back to the home meet and do it that way, that might work out.
Got that in the budget? Check that one out.
You know what the funny part about, like, listening to this get on the bus? I know that there have been stories, and we've heard them, with pro teams. Like,
Oh, yeah.
when they're playing for a championship and they're the home team, they will actually treat it like a road trip. Like, they will actually rent a hotel, and then they will go and act as though, because they want it, like, the coaches are like, okay, we don't want to have to worry about your kids, your wives, you know, any of this extra stuff that you got going on, family issue. Like, we're going to treat this like it's a business trip. So we're just going to go and we're going to stay downtown and that's it. You know, and so this is sort of the same idea. I think the summer is sort of like, it's like we're home, but we want to treat it like it's the road because we want to be really like focused on what we're trying to do. So, but yeah, I mean, I remember growing up hearing all kinds of stories about teams doing that.
Right.
You know, when they got up to championship level, it was like, you know, well, we're not going to do it the same way. We're not just going to let you turn you loose to your wife and your kids for now. I mean, you can do that the rest of the year, but this is the championship, and we're going to treat this like a road trip. So we're going to all stay in a hotel downtown, and we're going to, you know, spend time together and all this kind of stuff. So I kind of keep going back to that because I know, John, you've heard the same thing. Like over the years, that's happened quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and we actually did something, I mean, anecdotally similar here. When I was an athlete, we were having a real hard time playing on Fridays. We weren't starting well. So we showed up for practice on Thursday, and Coach had game jerseys out, game socks out, put the pregame protocol up, and instead of starting practice, we went through a pregame warm-up. They played the national anthem, and then he comes out and says, okay, now the slow start is done. Tomorrow we can start without any of this.
Oh, okay.
So it was a little bit of psychological
Right,
that he
yeah.
was playing with us there, but anecdotally it's similar
Right,
to
yeah.
that sort of thing. And we still had a rough start the next night.
But the idea is the same. Is like trying to kind of like almost like it's a bad analogy in a way, but it's like circling the wagons. Kind of, okay, this is about us. We're going to keep this in the circle. You know, it's not going to be a drama with my boyfriend if you're a female athlete, or my classes aren't going well if you're a guy, or whatever, and I just failed the test, or something like, you're trying to keep it, as focused as possible, and that's sort of the idea, especially for the championship,
Right.
And it's interesting too, and this is one of the things about track and field I don't always understand, because the indoor meets, there aren't team scores for events usually. Like, I don't see a lot of team scores being.
There is, but it varies from meet to meet.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but this is like the first time now where you're thinking about points, and you're thinking about where we can get points and where we can't. So does that change, like, your approach? I
You have
how
to
much
be
does that-
strategic now.
Yeah. Like, I mean, how much does that change the approach versus the rest of the year where you're like, okay, well, we're going to go out there, we're going to do our best, we're going to see what we can post, and we're going to see what we can get a baseline if we can improve on that.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that's what makes conference meets special, because now it's something we've been working towards all year long, as far as becoming a team and becoming a family and becoming something that we got to kind of support each other. And there's moments throughout the course of the season that we're starting to taste that, and we're starting to show that from a team side of things. And it's not just a men's team and a women's team, but it's a combined. We're in this together because we're a combined team in a lot of aspects. But when it comes to championship weekend, when every point, every position matters, every second, every inch, whatever it is, now it becomes important. And I think that's what makes championships great, because now we're all fighting for the same cause. Before it was, I'm going to try to get a PR here, and I might shut down after that because I'm feeling a little bit tender here or whatever. Yep, and that's okay. But now we're going to kind of put our bodies on the line.
Right. Yeah.
Put our emotions on the line and try to fight for our family, a little bit, which is pretty cool.
Leave it out there.
Yeah.
On the track.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's then that, that's what makes the championships great. I mean, if you wonder why I get worked up about it, it's because I want them to have that. So it's a big deal. So it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
How many scenarios do you go through in your head? I picture
That's
you.
the running joke.
I picture you with the whiteboard and just stuff everywhere.
Yeah,
going through these different scenarios.
Apparently there's running jokes around the team. I haven't heard them all, but I'm aware of them. That I'm Mr. Spreadsheet, because that's all I do is spend time on my spreadsheets figuring out score, which is exactly what I do. But I'm trying to figure out how to win, how to position my team to win, and I'm tearing apart the other teams to try to figure out how I could beat my team so I can turn around and beat them. And yeah, man, it's like I said, it's about. Over the course of 3 weeks, the last 3 weeks, I'm just going through results and looking at names and trying to figure out who the people is we got to keep an eye on or try to counter. And that's what we do. And so when the final heat sheets come out later this morning sometime, we'll find out where we stand, and it'll be interesting.
And then you start doing scenarios again.
And then we do scenarios again. So it's an anxious wait to see what happens. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
One of the things I learned from talking to Glen about this last year was that he has to set his lineup.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the coaches have to set their lineup by a certain time. So this is not something where he can just all of a sudden throw it all together at the last minute. Like, this has to be something that he has to decide.
Saturday morning, I need this.
Yeah,
points.
exactly.
Guess what?
Like,
you're
he
running
has
this
to,
event now. You can't
and that's one of the things that, like I said, I sat and talked with Glen. We had a good talk last year about this, and he said, and one of the challenges is trying to piece it together on that timeline. Try to figure out exactly. I mean, all the coaches have the same problem, but the same challenge in that regard. But it's trying to figure out, because you got to actually let the conference know what your heat lists are going to be and who your athletes are going to be. They're going to compete in each event ahead of time, well ahead of time.
It's hard, I mean, I enjoy the concepts that team sports, footballs and hockeys and basketballs and everything, where they can put these defensive shifts on or implement a different offense in the next series or whatever it might be. That's awesome. I have none of that. I put my entries in, and once it's in, that's all I can do.
The hay's in the barn at that point.
And we got to let it run. But that means that everything I do from December 7th until now matters. And that means everything I've done up to that point and everything I've tested and everything I've thrown at the wall to see what sticks now comes into play. Not only that, as I'm running individuals in individual races or throwing them into relays, I'm finding out who I've got as athletes. It's not just about the time; it's about how much heart they got, which is pretty cool too. So there was, one of those awesome experiences we had this year with our mixed 4x4. So we had a chance to run a mixed 4x4 this year, which was a very unique experience. But for the first time all year, everybody wanted to run a 4x4, which doesn't usually happen. Everybody's like, "Oh, coach, I think I'm feeling a little something here." Yeah, okay, all right. It's telling me something too, right? But all of a sudden, we do that mixed 4x4, and everybody's on board, and everybody's cheering, everybody's fighting. I'm like, "Ooh,
got something here."
We got information.
I love the mixed 4x4, and it's been cool to see it added to the Olympics and added to the World Championships. And I think that's a good thing. I think there needs to be, for some of the running events, especially the relay events, that's cool.
How long until you think it's added at this level?
I think we've been having the conversation within the conference for a few years now of adding a mixed 4x4 post-championship events. So after the last 4x4 is run, then we maybe start throwing some in just for fun. Again, hypotheticals. Maybe it's a traveling coach's trophy or something like that the mixed team gets to take with them to their campus and own it for the year until the next time, or the next, indoor to outdoor, whatever. I think it's coming. As much fun as we had with it, I'm hopeful that we could see it, because I could also see it even grow into something bigger, where maybe you have your team set for your traveling trophy, but then after that you can also have, all right, we're going to have a mixed open race. You got 2 guys and 2 girls, any team. Let's see what you got and have some fun with it. And I think our sport kind of lends well to that possibility, because again, points are done, and now we're waiting for all the awards to start, getting set up and the points to be tallied and everything like that. In the meantime, let's go play a little bit.
Yeah.
And really kind of
just let it out.
Yep.
Yep.
some fun. So I think it's coming. I don't know if it's going to be something that will be towards the championship points because of the difference in gender stuff, but I think it's coming.
Well, I mean, if nothing else, it's kind of a nice experiment to have it, just
Yeah.
to say, like, let's try this out and see how it goes.
What do you think of it, Summer?
The mixed 4x4
Yeah.
that we ran this year, I definitely thought it was a fun experience. It was probably something I didn't think I'd ever get to run, other than like possibly our fun alumni meet outside. But it definitely, by the end of that meet that we got to, I was sore, I was stiff, but I was like, I'm gonna still run it, I guess. And because of the way it worked out, all the superior teams got in the same heat, and my heat was like 3 heats after that one. I was like, you're kidding. I wanted to run with the rest of my teammates. We had like 6 teams or something crazy like that. So 5 of them were in one heat with like 1 or 2 other teams. I don't remember where they were from. And then my heat was the last one. It's just one superior team. I was a little sad about that, but that's okay. There's possibilities for possibly more in the future, which would be fun. But yeah, it was definitely a fun meet. And it was like a little bit crazy because I was on one team, and then all of a sudden me and another person were switched to a different team, and then all of a sudden that person dropped out, so then we had to find someone last minute to run in our 4x4 team. And so someone was like, I'll do it, went sprinted, got their shoes, sprinted back, put them on, and we were running.
That's
so
awesome.
it's just something fun that
That's
we got
awesome.
to do.
It's really cool that everybody wants to do it too. You know, because like I said, I mean, mixed by 4x4 is sort of a, I don't want to say it's a novelty at this point in time, but it is something.
But it kinda is.
Well, it is in
kinda
a way.
is.
I mean, when it started coming into like the World Championships and the Olympics now, and it's made its full appearance now, and now it's an actual event. That sort of opened up the door for all the other college athletes, for instance, and high school athletes now. That, well, maybe we can do a mixed 4x4. Let's try this out. Let's see how it goes. But it's still so new that it's sort of a novel concept right now, and I think it seems like a lot of teams are trying to adjust to the idea of it. But it sounds like I think it's
fun.
cool.
It's
I think
fun.
it's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's cool.
How are the teams reacting to absolutely having the bullseye on? Because you know both of your teams heading into this weekend are wearing a bullseye.
Yes.
So how are
for
how are the teams handling that, or are they accustomed to it? I guess.
I don't really know. We've talked a lot about points Glen scored out, what everyone's looking like, and just what the girls' conference looks like compared to the guys. And we've talked about a lot of possibilities, what our mindset needs to be at, and like what we need to be ready to do and looking forward to. And one of those conversations involved, we've won. We've had that trophy. We've had the team pictures. We've had the shirts. We've had all that. That's what the other teams want. And yes, we are all competing against each other, but we're the ones they want to beat. They don't want to give it to us again. We want to take it again, of course, but it's just being ready to understand, like, maybe we're not scored highest right now, but that might not matter to people who've seen us win in the past. So
Right.
It's just understanding that throughout the course, if we're ahead, if we're behind, no matter what, there's always going to be that thing in the back of the mind of we have to get superior because they're going to pull it out. They've done it. We've seen them do it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how many it is in a row on the men's side. It's a lot.
8, 9.
9 in a row.
Sorry.
And the women back to back.
Yep.
So, I mean, that is a pretty big target. I mean, that is, you've got not just defending champions, you've got
Many.
defending champions, many-time defending champions out there. So, yeah, that is something. And I mean, this is something we talked with Glen about too, though, in the cross-country side of things too, because it's the same thing with cross-country that the teams really want to knock off the Yellowjackets because UWS has won now on both sides of that equation as well in cross-country. So it's I don't want to say that Glen's an expert in handling that. I mean, is that something that you But Glen has been through that before of knowing that his team has a target on its back. And he did it during the fall with cross-country. Is the mindset any different for you going from coaching, defending champions in cross-country, going to defending champions in track and field, or is that still the same approach?
I don't know if that's something I necessarily focus on. I think we just continue to work on the process of being prepared for what we, for a championship, regardless of whether it's cross, indoor, or outdoor. We've got our bodies, and we've got to position them as best we can to do what they do. Obviously, we're going to continue to watch how to prepare to beat all challengers, and that's what we do. And we're going to put up a fight every time. I don't think I'm sitting here trying to watch, the target on my back. I'm trying to figure out how to keep moving forward with making the best team I got. Truth of the matter is, the teams in our conference are strong, and they're getting stronger. And that's good for all of us.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. And we encourage that because when they get better, we got to get better. If we just stay the same, we're going to sit, go start tumbling down. And I don't want to do that. I want to continue to be towards the top end of things. And but yeah, the other teams are coming and for good reason because they're really getting strong and it's fun to watch them develop. So got some good coaches out there.
Yep.
Talk about the art of hurdling.
The art of hurdling.
Yes.
Okay.
I've never had a hurdler on this before. so
No,
let's-
well, and hurling is it's its own discipline, man. It requires some abilities that, I mean,
I certainly don't have.
during my sister was a sprinter. She ran track and field. And she was a sprinter, straight up 100, 200. That was her thing. Me, I never ran track. I played sports that required a lot of running, like soccer, but I never had to run and jump and then run and jump and then run and jump. That's a really unique skill set. So talk to us about it. Yeah, let's hear about this hurdling thing.
Well, it's basically running, and you just take a longer step. It's not actually a jump. You're supposed to just lengthen that stride. I've had my hurdle coach so far tell me this year, he's like, can you stand next to the hurdle for me? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, it's at hip height. You won't hit it. You don't have to jump. Just run. I'm like, okay. And I didn't think I was ever jumping when I hurdled. But one of those things, you're running at a barrier in your way, and you think, oh, I got to go up and over it. No, you just have to go through it and just skim the top of it if you can. And that's what the practice is all about.
He's got a follow-up question.
Well, I've got several.
Yeah, I was about to say, or three. There's a bunch coming here. I know how to read him. He had that very quizzical look. So go ahead, John. Let's hear your.
It's not so much a question. It's just more of a. Really, you're not jumping.
No. If you're doing it right, I mean, a lot of the time when you watch professional hurdlers, and we use iPads to video and stuff like that, we can see how we're running, what we're looking like. Their heads don't move. They're in the straight line. Their shoulders don't move. If you're doing it right,
That's true.
if you
That
hit
is
that
true.
lead,
I know.
Yeah.
if you go over straight, you should not be jumping because then you're like a bunny rabbit, up and down,
And
and that just
it
wastes
slows
your
you
time.
down.
Exactly.
It slows you down.
Those
I suppose,
fast hurdlers,
yeah.
they got the steps, they've got that over and quick, they got the rhythm.
Well, and
But it's just
the thing
totally
with-
changed everything for me now. Like, I
Yeah,
can see
well-
it on here going, they're not jumping.
Well, I get the feeling it's more like a tempo though too, because it's like, okay, I take 2 steps, then hurdle, then 2 steps, then extend, like 2 steps, then extend. And like,
Yeah.
is that pretty much like it's kind of like a tempo thing, right? I mean, that's
I mean,
yeah.
my coaches, again, I can't hear it when I run. I kind of just black out and I'm at the end and I did it hopefully. But
Glen's just shaking his head and smiling.
but you can hear the steps. It's a bump, 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 bump.
Yeah.
When they go over,
so
if
it's-
you
yeah,
hear-
it's
if you
tempo
hear the
and
right
rhythm.
steps-
Yeah, it's tempo and
Yes.
rhythm and doing it at a certain pace, like every single time. So
Yeah, and I mean, most of the time when you hurdle, you have a set amount of steps you'll take in between the hurdles. So once you hit that, it should be the same every time for everyone you go over. I'm someone who 3 steps hurdles, so I get to that first hurdle, it's bump, 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 and I'm going over in between the bump, bump, bumps, basically.
I will say this, and this is the best part. When we recruited Summer, she was flirting with 3-stepping, but she was, doing a lot more 4-stepping than she probably would prefer to have. But knowing she was so close, and there was a couple times in the last high school season where you actually hit 3s, and it was beautiful, right? And we were pretty excited for you. But knowing that once we got you here, just getting you stronger and getting you to where you needed to be, and then watching her finally for the first time hit a race where there was 3 all the way through, and it wasn't even a question, it was just an absolute fact, and it was just like, oh, there it is. That's what we
So when you're doing 4s, then it's 3 between each hurdle, correct? Is that
So
what you're
3
talking
steps
about?
and then
So,
extend,
and then your
yeah.
and your 4th step is
the extent, yeah.
through the hurdle.
You don't
Yeah.
when you go over the hurdle. So like you have your lead leg and your trail leg. So your lead leg will hit. You don't count that one. You go 1, 2, 3, and then up. So you don't count the first one over the hurdle. It's the next step after that.
Okay. My world changed today.
You know what though? I mean, honestly, that makes sense though.
It makes
you would count the
perfect
steps
sense.
in between the hurdle and then try to get that tempo, because then it depends on how long your stride.
Like if
is.
I'd be watching this
Like-
now this weekend and be going bump, 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 bump.
Exactly. So now, like on Saturday when I get here, I'm going to be like,
Yes.
I'll be counting the steps now. I'm going to be like looking and saying like, okay, how
Yeah.
many did she get?
And you can see someone who hurdles and someone who jumps the hurdles. It's very visibly different.
That would make sense because they go up. Versus
Yeah.
out,
Well,
right?
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
So
By jumping, you're going up, over, down, running.
Mm-hmm.
If you're running, you're you're just a straight line. You're just going.
Well, if you watch like the Olympic, whether it's the man,
Well, yeah,
or
that
women,
you can definitely
you can definitely see because they're straight up like it's boop, boop.
Yes,
like, I mean,
exactly.
and they're extending out.
Yes.
You know, now I understand that not all of us are Olympic athletes, so they're that. You know, even in college.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, no, I'm not. So, but I mean, it really does take a lot of. I feel like it would take a lot of practice in order to get that down to the point where you just know it's like do 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 boom, do 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 boom, do 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 boom. Like,
Yeah, it
you know.
just. I mean, like Glenn said, in high school, I 4-step, so I was alternating trail legs every hurdle.
And that was going to be my next question. So awesome.
And
Well, that would be confusing. to
Yeah,
me.
it would,
It's like,
yeah.
okay, I led with my right on this
Yeah,
one. Now
so-
this time it's my left, and you would think you would want that consistency.
yeah,
Right, that's
so
where you get the tempo. I would
Yes.
think, yeah.
It depends on how fast you are, your speed, what you're comfortable with. People only like hurdling with one leg, so that leaves you with either 5 steps, which is a lot between hurdles, or 3 steps. So if you want one specific trail leg, you're either taking a lot or you got to get to taking the 3 steps. I was someone who I tried 3-stepping in high school, and I could never get it. I either wasn't strong enough, wasn't fast enough. I had a couple tumbles, so we just stuck with the 4 steps. And, I mean, I got quick, and then we spent the entirety of last year of trying to get the 3 steps. And towards the very end of the season, I 3-stepped all 4, and I was like, shoot, Glenn, let me go to the last chance qualifiers. I can do it. And I think I did it at that last meet. I ran like a 10:04. I 3-stepped all 5 hurdles and was like, oh, this is a game changer.
And now you don't even think about it.
I don't know. It's easy. I had that year of lifting. I had that year
Mm-hmm.
of indoor and outdoor season, and we came back, and it wasn't even a question. I ran hurdles the first day we had hurdle practice. I'm like, oh, this is nice that I can just 3-step right off the bat. And now it's just a matter of working on my trail, like essentially reprogramming how I've been hurdling, because I'm a different hurdler now. I have those 3 steps. I have the
Yeah.
speed. I have the strength.
Mm-hmm.
That it's just about lowering myself on the hurdle, of getting that trail leg quick and getting in the positioning I want. So my PR right now is a 9.8, which is, compared to a 10:04 last year, is a pretty big decrease. And
Yeah,
I was
it's a-
running mid-10s, high-10s in high school for the 60s. So it's definitely been a lot of improvement and a lot of
I mean, that's a
road.
quarter of a second.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
In a sprint, yes.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, in a sprint, that's a lot. You know, and it's interesting for me, too, to think about this, because if you get that wrong, like on one of the hurdles, if you 4-step instead of 3, then it throws you off. So now it's like,
Or you smash your shin on the thing.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I've got my tempos now off.
Yep.
But see, for me, that would be something where I would have to mentally be like, okay, 3-step, 3-step. Like, I have to make sure that I keep that in my mind for that 10 seconds or whatever, 9.5 seconds, that's, you know, what I'm doing. And then if I screw up on one of the hurdles, then I'll be pretty PO'd at myself, because now I'm off balance. You know what I mean? But that's kind of stuff that, you know, we were talking about with coaching staffs. That's kind of stuff that you work on, right? I mean, those are the kind of things you work on with your specific coach. And but like you said, I just learned something new today, too. Because you always think of, you know, I think about the same way I think of, like, the steeplechase in the outdoor, which is where they have that they have a couple of big hurdles, and then they have that water hazard, which I've never have quite understood the water hazard thing. But but anyway, but I mean, in the hurdle, like in a sprint hurdle, though, because steeplechase is not a sprint. You know, it's I don't know if it's any different or not, but it just, because it feels like in the steeplechase they actually are jumping. Versus,
To some degree,
Yeah.
probably a little bit more, but that's not the goal. You don't.
No.
You don't necessarily want to. That's a whole nother.
that's a whole nother
discussion.
conversation. We
Yeah.
can have that doing
Yeah.
the
I would
outdoor
hate
season.
that because I can't stand when my socks get wet. So I would hate that event.
There's a lot to that event.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Because, I mean, I'm not built for running anyway.
There's a lot more mental to that too than even just the physical. It's a mental battle throughout.
Is that an event you would do?
Never.
Remember the 3,000 meter steeplechase?
What is one that you don't do that you would like to do?
An event I don't do that
Yeah.
I would like to do? I don't think there really is one. I mean, I cover a lot of different events for the most part. Thankfully, it's only a 60 to a 400, so I do most within that. But, I mean, I've dabbled in a lot of the events, either between high school or in college now. But I've, for the most part, have my range I stay within, and I don't really venture
Not going to do
outside
the,
of
hey,
that.
Glenn, I need that pole vault.
Well, and here's okay. So let's go even more basic question, and this is like the rookie question. What is your favorite event to run?
Hurdles, by far.
Is it? Okay.
60 hurdles.
60 hurdles. Okay.
100 hurdles. I do run the 400 hurdles outdoor, but 60/100
I
hurdles
feel like
are
that
my
would be
favorite.
a lot.
100 meters.
Four.
Or 400 meter
Yeah.
hurdles.
I will say,
the hurdles
though,
are spread out though a little bit more.
They are, yes.
Yeah.
So
the
you
the
can,
tempo is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, if you're running them, your steps should be on, depending on how you're going. But, I mean, by the time you die at the end, you might be hurdling with the other leg. 400, I'll stand by this. 400 hurdles are better than a basic 400. I don't know why, but if I am told to run a 400 versus 400 hurdles, I would much prefer to run 400 hurdles.
That's interesting. Yes, you would think that you would want those extra steps.
Is your time faster in the hurdles than it would be in a regular 4?
No.
Okay.
What I've been told, though, and this is from other athletes that Glen has had in the past, is that the 400 really hurts.
Oh.
That's a tough one because you're running basically a full sprint for 400 meters. It's not like a distance event where you're setting a nice pace and you're trying to run fast, but not killing yourself. Whereas 400 actually counts as a sprint, and so it literally is you're putting it all out there for 400 meters, and by that last 100 meters, it's pretty tough. It gets pretty banged up. I think it was it Tyler Finger that talked about that. I think that it's going to hurt.
Yeah,
you just have to go in and just know it's going to hurt, but so. People don't line up usually to take the 400. I know that. That seems to be the event where...
Is that the one they drop out of?
Yeah, that's the one where it's...
Regular season, they'll drop out of a 4x4 because I'll start looking and everybody starts scattering and hiding. And they're gone.
Yeah, it's not... It's because those last 100 meters or 50 to 100 meters are a real push. And so that's... Because I've never heard of an athlete who runs either the 4x4 or the 400 just on their own. As a singular event.
Well, even the ones that do know it hurts.
Yeah.
So
it's just the nature of the race. So I love watching 4x4s. I think they're fun to watch just because you see what the athletes can do when they open up. But I also know it's a tremendous strain.
Is that, especially in a championship, I think people get excited. They want to be a part of it. I mean, if they're still standing, they're still wanting to, because they know it means a lot.
That seems like when the athletes in the crowd get the most into it is on the relays too. That's the other thing. Especially in the 4x400, it seems like everybody's just glued to it.
It gets loud out here.
Yeah, it does.
When the relays are going, it's loud.
Yeah, because all the athletes are going crazy, and that's really the first full team event because a lot of it is individual points adding up to a team score. Yeah. But you've got 4 athletes that are, representing our full crack team, and this is what we want them to do. So I really like watching 4x4s, and I also realize it's a tremendous, like I said, strain on the athletes. So that's another reason why I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I know that it is conference week, and you have other things to do besides sit here and talk with us. So we'll wrap this thing up. But final thoughts, Matt?
I've really enjoyed it the last 2 years. I've attended either the first, second day, or both days of the championships. I've learned a lot just from watching it those 2 years. It really is a full-on event. I don't know if the average person who has not been involved in track and field really understands how many logistical things go on here and how many athletes are actually participating in any given, especially a championship weekend. There's a lot. But I've gained a whole new appreciation for it, and I can understand why Glen is stressed. Because
100%.
Yeah, because just the amount of moving parts, there's a lot of moving pieces to this, on all the teams and all the staff and everything. So, but I guess the good thing is that I've been impressed by how well we put it on too. It's not just the fact that our teams have won the last few years, but also it's a well-run event. It looks good. I think most people who come in and watch it enjoy being a spectator as well. So it's a fun event, and it's going to be busy on Saturday because we've got some other stuff going on. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm planning on being here bright and early on Saturday to see how the final day of the championships rolls out. So I'm looking forward to another good show, Glen, from you and your team and your teams. Yep, and looking forward to another good championship on Saturday.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys.
Good luck.
Thank you.
And by the time this airs, hopefully, congratulations.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Appreciate it.
That's going to do it for this week's episode of Eye of the Swarm. We want to thank Glen Drexler and Summer Hesseldahl for coming by and for the education on hurdling.
Of course.
For Glen and Summer and the Big Sound Matt Johnson, I am Jon Garver, and this has been Eye of the Swarm.